Have you ever wondered if an animal is capable of holding onto gratitude for years, to the point of changing someone's destiny? Well, get ready, because the story I'm about to tell you isn't just about a heroic act. It's about a silent promise, a bond that defies logic, and a reunion so unbelievable it will leave you speechless. Yes, we're talking about her, a lioness. And what happened years after a simple act of kindness? Well, you won't believe it. Think about it. A wild creature. The top of the food chain, one that inspires as much respect as fear, suddenly appearing in the middle of civilization. It's not a movie scene, it's real life. And what if this appearance was in fact a call, a desperate plea from a past that no one imagined being remembered? This isn't just a chronicle. It's a dive into the heart of nature, where memory doesn't fade and trust is a treasure kept under lock and key. Some say that animals act on pure instinct without complex feelings. But what if I told you that science already shows that many animals have surprising cognitive and emotional capacities, including the ability to remember and express gratitude in ways we never imagined? A recent study, for example, demonstrated elephants' ability to recognize and react positively to humans who helped them decades earlier. Incredible, right? And this story we're going to explore today takes that idea to another level. The sun was already at its peak, scorching the hot asphalt of the metropolis, when a strange, heavy silence hung in the air. It wasn't the kind of silence that precedes peace, but rather the kind that announces the unimaginable. Then, like an apparition from a dream or a nightmare, she appeared. It wasn't a roar that announced her, but the muffled sound of heavy, determined paws on the concrete, echoing between the glass buildings. A lioness, majestic and imposing, walked with an almost surreal calmness through the city center. Can you imagine the smell of burning tires mixed with the wild scent of a feline predator, all in broad daylight? It was chilling. At first, panic was widespread. Cars braked abruptly. The sound of horns mingled with sharp cries of surprise. People ran in all directions like frightened ants in an invaded anthill. But even in the midst of that chaos, something about her was different. Her eyes, of a deep amber, did not carry the fury of a predator on the hunt, but rather a kind of urgency, almost a silent plea. She didn't growl. She didn't try to attack. She just moved, with a dignity that contrasted absurdly with the urban setting. Would you believe that an animal with such fierce instincts could be there without a desire for confrontation? It makes you think, doesn't it? This scene reminds us that often, what seems like a threat can actually be a veiled cry for help. Just like us, who sometimes hide our vulnerabilities behind a strong posture. Think about it. Before judging a situation or a person, isn't it worth observing a little more, trying to understand what's really behind the surface? Often, aggression is just fear. It's a valuable lesson for our daily lives, for dealing with the surprises that life throws at us. And if you, like me, love emotional animal stories that make us reflect, leave that like and subscribe so you don't miss any. Because this lioness's story is just beginning, and what she did next is even more surprising. In the midst of that controlled chaos, with the lioness still circling among the stopped cars, as if searching for a familiar face in the frightened crowd, a man stood out. He wasn't just anyone. He was Elias Kruger, a veteran wildlife rescue agent with years of experience and countless scars and stories to tell. Elias wasn't one to be easily impressed, but seeing those amber eyes, something sparked in his memory. The earthy scent of the savannah, the cold breeze of the African night. All of that seemed to return with the image of that feline. Do you believe that a smell or an image can transport you years back in time, as if it were yesterday? That's how emotional memory works, and Elias was about to have proof of that. It was a flash. Elias knew that lioness, not from a documentary, but from a remarkable encounter 2 years before. At that time, he was on a delicate mission in a remote region, combating illegal poaching, when he found a young lioness caught in a cruel trap, hidden among the damp foliage. She was injured, terrified, but with a defiant glint in her eyes. Elias, with his team, risked his own life to free her, dealing with the frightened creature not with brute force, but with the patience and kindness that only a true protector of wildlife possesses. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you had to reach out to someone who, at first glance, seemed dangerous but needed help? Elias did, and the universe was about to show why. This reunion makes us think about the power of our actions. A gesture of kindness, no matter how small it seems, can create bonds that last a lifetime, or even longer. It's like that old saying, sow good and reap good. The curious thing is that many animals possess a capacity for memory of events and people who helped them, something that science is still unraveling. For us, in our daily lives, the lesson is clear. Be kind. We never know the lasting impact of a smile, a helping hand, an extended hand. And what would the lioness do now, upon reuniting with her savior? The story is only beginning to surprise us. That silent recognition between Elias and the lioness sent a shiver down the spine. There were no roars, no attacks, just a fixed, deep gaze that seemed to plead. And then she did the unexpected. Can you visualize the scene? A wild lioness, who just minutes before was causing panic, now turning her back on the city and starting to move, slowly, as if waiting for Elias and his team to follow her. The hot afternoon air seemed to vibrate with the tension of that moment, while Elias's eyes didn't miss a single movement of the animal. It was an instinct, a mutual trust that transcended verbal communication. She moved away from the urban chaos, guiding them through less busy streets, down dusty alleys, and even through a patch of scrubland on the outskirts of the city. It was as if she knew exactly where to go, with a determination that made it clear there was a purpose to her coming. And Elias, with years of experience dealing with wildlife, realized that this was not a lost animal, but a guide. Have you ever stopped to think about how many times a sign, an intuition, or even an animal, metaphorical or literal, has guided you where you needed to go, even without understanding it at the time? Life has those surprises. The path was long and perilous, with the distant sound of civilization fading with each step, replaced by the rustling of dry vegetation underfoot. And then they arrived. There, hidden by dense bushes, almost imperceptible, was a hole. A deep, rocky hole from which weak, desperate whimpers came. At the bottom, trapped and injured, was a small lion cub. There was the key to the whole mystery, the reason for the mother's risky journey, a desperate plea for rescue. This situation teaches us a great lesson about the power of nonverbal communication and the importance of being attentive to the signs around us. Sometimes the greatest cry for help doesn't come in words, but in gestures, looks, or even the unexpected appearance of a lioness in the city. And now, Elias had to act fast. What would he do to save the little feline? The air now weighed with a mixture of dust and the sweet metallic smell of fear. With the cub whimpering at the bottom of the hole, every second was crucial. The mother lion, who until then had shown surprising calm, now paced the edge of the precipice, her muscles tense, emitting a low, guttural growl that seemed to shake the very earth. It was a warning, a plea, a declaration that her maternal instinct was at its limit. Could you feel the force of that sound in your chest, the vibration that passed through the low vegetation? Elias could, but he couldn't hesitate. His heart pounded in his chest, but his mind was clear. Assess the risk, plan each step, while the mother lion watched his every move with a spine-chilling intensity. Elias knew that any mistake, any sudden movement, could turn the cry for help into a furious attack. He grabbed his rescue equipment, sturdy ropes, metal carabiners that clinked softly, a first aid kit. The trust between them was an invisible but fragile bridge. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you had to place your faith in something or someone, even when the risk was immense? Elias was living that to the extreme. With a nod to his team, he began the descent. The cold, damp rock scraped his hands, and the smell of wet earth mingled with the animal odor coming from below. Every meter seemed like an eternity. Down there, the cub was curled up, trembling with a visible wound on its paw. It was a small animal, but the mother watching above was a lethal predator. Elias knew it wasn't just the rescue of an animal, but a test of his own courage and the promise of kindness he had made years before. Wildlife is full of dangers, but also of unbreakable bonds. What would happen when he was face to face with the cub, under the watchful eye of the mother? The tension in the air was almost palpable, like a stretched rope about to snap, as Elias finally reached the cub at the bottom of the hole. The little feline was scared, whimpering softly, and a trickle of dark blood ran from its paw. Up above, the mother lion watched every movement with a spine-chilling intensity, her eyes fixed on her baby. The only sound was the creaking of the ropes and Elias's racing heartbeat. Have you ever found yourself in such a vulnerable situation where your life depended on a simple thread and the trust of a wild animal? It's something that changes you inside. With the utmost care, Elias managed to stabilize the cub, and with the help of the team, the little lion was hoisted out of the hole. The mother lion emitted a low growl, but not of anger, rather of relief, a sound that vibrated on the ground and passed through every cell of the body. Immediately, the veterinary team, which accompanied Elias, began to work. They set up a small, makeshift aid station right there under the hot sun, the smell of antiseptic mixing with the wild scent of the environment. They examined the cub with impressive dexterity, cleaning the wound and applying first aid. Throughout the process, the mother lion stayed nearby, watching every step of the team with an attention that bordered on vigilance. Her eyes never left the cub, and although she didn't get too close, her presence was a constant reminder of her concern. It was as if she understood that these humans were there to help. One of the most fascinating curiosities about animals is how pain and need can overcome even the instinct to distrust predators, which these humans were not acting like. The lesson for us: when someone is suffering, empathy and action are key, and kindness is a universal language. As soon as the cub was declared stable and strong enough, the moment everyone was waiting for arrived: the reunion. The lioness slowly approached, sniffed her cub tenderly, and licked its wounds in a gesture of pure love. Have you ever witnessed such unconditional love that made you see the world differently? That reunion was living proof of the human-animal connection and the power of silent gratitude. But the story still had more to teach us. The sun was already beginning to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, while the mother lion, with her cub now nestled safely at her side, looked fixedly at Elias. The smell of dry earth and the soft murmur of the wind in the savanna leaves were the only sounds, creating an atmosphere of reverence. There were no words, of course, but the message was as clear as crystal in the deep, intelligent eyes of that feline. Gratitude. It was a pure, ancestral gratitude that transcended any barrier of species. Have you ever felt a look that spoke more than 1,000 words? Elias felt it, and it was an emotion he would never forget. The lioness approached Elias, not with the ferocity of a predator, but with surprising gentleness. She rubbed her head lightly against his leg, a gesture that, in her wild world, is one of extreme trust and affection. There is no sound more powerful than the purr of a big cat, and hers was an engine of pure satisfaction and relief. It was a farewell, but also a thank you in its most primal and sincere form. This scene teaches us a powerful lesson about reciprocity. When we extend a hand with kindness, the response can come in the most unexpected and moving ways. Elias knew it was time. The cub was safe, the mother was grateful, and wildlife was calling them back. With one last look at her savior, a look full of memory and deep recognition, the lioness turned and, with the cub now frolicking lightly at her side, they both disappeared into the dense vegetation. The air seemed lighter, but Elias's heart was heavier with the beauty and depth of that moment. That's the beauty of the human-animal connection, which shows us that true bonds don't need words to be strong. Can you imagine yourself in a farewell moment like this, knowing you made a difference in the life of such a magnificent creature? The dust of the day had already settled under the silvery glow of the new moon, and the echo of distant roars of wildlife reminded Elias that, although the lioness and her cub had returned to their home, their story continued to reverberate. This reunion, so improbable and full of dangers, was not just a rescue. It was a living lesson about the capacity of animals, a lesson about memory, about how an act of kindness sown years before can blossom into a desperate plea for help and an unprecedented gratitude. Have you ever stopped to think about the emotional intelligence of animals that we often underestimate? The truth is that stories like Elias's and the Lionesses force us to reevaluate our own perception of the animal kingdom. They challenge the idea that we are the only creatures capable of complex feelings like trust and reciprocity. Elias felt the weight of the lioness's paw on his leg, the tenderness of her purr. Those gestures were not blind instinct. They were the manifestation of a deep bond, proof that the human-animal connection goes far beyond what we imagine. Who has never felt that a pet, even a small dog with its funny quirks or a cat that purrs in your lap, seems to read your soul and understand your feelings? This chronicle is a powerful reminder. In our daily lives, we are constantly faced with the choice of acting with kindness or ignorance. The case of the lioness shows us that every positive gesture, every helping hand extended, has the potential to create waves that spread in unexpected and transformative ways, not just for other humans, but for all forms of life around us. It is an invitation to be more empathetic, more attentive to signs, and to recognize the dignity and intelligence in all creatures. How about applying this lesson today with a small act of kindness for someone in your path? Because believe me, the universe always finds a way to return what is sown, and this lioness is living proof of that. And so we come to the end of a journey that took our breath away and made us see the world through different eyes. The story of the lioness who returned to her savior, asking for help in an unbelievable way for her injured cub, is not just a tale of wildlife. It is a mirror to our own humanity. It shows us that gratitude can be an unbreakable bond, that trust can be built even between such different species, and that a simple act of kindness has the power to echo for years and even save lives. Can you feel the depth of this human-animal connection reverberating in your heart? It is proof that we are part of something much larger. This chronicle invites us to reflect on the strength of memory not only in humans, but in all living beings. Who would have imagined that a lioness would remember a rescue from 2 years ago and return to seek her hero? This teaches us that respect and compassion are not just virtues, but keys that open doors to deep and unexpected relationships. What an incredible lesson for our daily lives, for every interaction we have, whether with a neighbor, a coworker, or a stray animal. Every gesture counts, every seed of kindness germinates. If this story warmed your heart and made you believe even more in the power of the bonds that unite us, I have a special invitation for you. Leave a comment below telling us, have you ever had an animal that changed your life or taught you an unexpected lesson? Your story can inspire many other people. Oh, and if this chronicle moved you, get ready, because the next video suggested by YouTube will move you even more. Don't miss it. Click on the screen and continue this journey with us.